Hey friends, welcome to another episode of the 10 Laws Podcast with East Forest. I am the Forest. Thank you for joining us this week. I've got a great conversation with Marieme. That's right, she just goes by Marieme. And she is a singer and an artist and an amazing person. She has an incredible look, style, as they say. Like I have a little dot hawk on my head, as I affectionately call it. She's taken things to a whole nother level with this. It's blue and it's amazing. You gotta just see Marieme in order to fully hear Marieme. So go down there in the show notes while I'm talking and we're talking, and check out her Instagram or otherwise, and then you'll understand a little bit where we're coming from here. But she's an amazing singer. And we collaborated on some music, and one of the songs, the first song, is called Cosmic Dance, and it's going to be on my new studio record, and it comes out tomorrow if you're listening to this in, right away when it comes out. But May 24th, 2023 is the first single off my new record, and the record is called Music for the Deck of the Titanic. Lots more to say about this record. It's going to start unfolding on the 24th with this song Cosmic Dance, and then it will continue this summer with all sorts of fun things. And we have a video. This is an amazing video. Talia Blank made it, the director, and it features Elaj Balde. Do you know have you seen his work? I came across it by happenstance. He's a figure skater, professional, but he does this skating on wild ice. And Talia made this amazing video featuring that with her own work and sort of this other. It's incredible. Highly recommend. Check out the video for Cosmic Dance that's coming out at the same time. And I'm just so excited. Jens Karras played the drums. He's been on the podcast. Owen Hoffman-Smith played the bass. And it's kind of going back to a lot of my roots. But we'll talk about it more in this podcast, and I'll give you more behind some of these songs. I'm just over the moon to be able to share it with you. I'm going to be at Bottlerock Festival this weekend in Napa, California, May 26th through 28th. And then I'll be doing a free event at Stanford on May 30th. So if you're around on Tuesday, May 30th, the Stanford event's going to be a talk and a guided meditation with a panel and myself at the D.school. It's a design school. We're going to be talking about the role of design in psychedelic therapy. It's going to be fascinating. June 16th through 18th, I'll be in Dublin at Beyond the Pale. Wednesday, June 21st, I'm going to be playing at the Enter the Portal in Denver, Colorado with Bonobo and Caitlin Aurelia Smith and Superposition. That's a ceremony concert. The Solstice as well. Rod and I will be at Esalen around the July 4th weekend. I'll be in Poland for Dreamersland August 3rd through 6th. That should be a ceremony concert as well. And then Sunday, August 13th, back in London, and that's going to be with Peter Broderick. I cannot wait to play a ceremony concert with him live on stage. Never done that before. And then August 24th through 28th at the Ram Dass Retreat in Boone, North Carolina, also with Marissa Rada-Wepner. There's going to be a few more dates announced soon as well. Head over to eastforest.org/tour for all the tickets. And please always stay in touch with us on the newsletter if you're not on it. Or, of course, social media. We try to post about these things, but I don't know. Do people see things on social media anymore, or they just sort of like register it for a second and hit scroll or like, or you know what I mean? I want to thank also everyone on our Patreon council. I just finished a few minutes ago our monthly Zoom council, and one of the members was new and said, I don't know how this is. What's this all about? Like, why do you do this? Or this just feels like really unique and deep. And one of the other members chimed in and says, yeah, I've been doing this with him and all of us in the council since the beginning, and it is unique and it is special, and it just feels like an opportunity for us to allow something alive to come through in that moment and for us to share it together. And I always feel more alive and more grateful when they're done. Always. We essentially have a guided meditation that is developed on the spot based on what we're scouting out there in the world and what's going on. So if you'd like to support, there's lots of tiers and ways to do that. Thank you. Thank you so much for supporting this podcast and this work. Patreon.com/East Forest is the way to do it. And thank you to everyone on the council for your support. Okay, so I will play Cosmic Dance at the end of this episode. So if you want to hear it, you can head over there. But of course, when it comes out, please go over to Spotify, Apple, or my website or the Bandcamp and give it a listen, share it around, check out the video, and let us know what you think. I think you're going to dig. It's super duper groovy. And lastly, if you're new to the podcast, just want to let you know these episodes are evergreen. You can go back in time magically with your thumb and see past episodes. And I very much invite you to dive in because they're all relevant and they're all amazing. And I've been graced with such amazing guests over the years. And I want you to hear the wisdom and the stories and the humor and the insightfulness that they have shared with us. So if you find an episode you like, send it to a friend. But there's so many good ones, and that's just, you can always skip this jibber jabber of mine and hop into the conversation, and it will be as alive as it were in the moment that we did it. Okay, friends, let's hop into this with my old friend, our new friend and collaborator, Marieme. All right, Marieme, here we are. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, you're looking full Marieme right now. I like it.
Thank you. It takes no time.
Yeah, right. Oh, you should see me in the morning. It takes me hours. Yeah. So for those who can't see us right now, or if they want to hop on YouTube, or if this is maybe social media, let's get the elephant in the room out of the way. What's going on with my hair? No.
Your hair is amazing.
No, your hair. That's like incredible. And it's definitely, I have a feeling you put some thought into that. It wasn't an accident.
It actually was an accident. I'm not even going to lie. So I went into the Peruvian jungle and I came out like this. That's the story I like to tell people, because I had an afro when I went into the jungle. And then when I did a bunch of ayahuasca and like plant medicine and a lot of meditation and stuff. And I accessed my highest self, and my highest self kind of had blue hair. Like I kept imagining like this image of a blue dragon, like a dragon will come to me all the time. And so it started out as like cascading hair down, like just up cascading down. And then one day I put it up into a ball. Then the ball turned into this mohawk situation.
It's fantastic. I've never seen anything like it. It does have dragon vibes. Like it's got this kind of big forward energy. Almost, it actually reminds me of it's like conical, like a nautilus or something from the sea. Like a dragon from the sea.
Awesome. I'm glad you understand what's going on here.
Well, I vibe. Like I have like a tiny little version of what you've got going on. And maybe I need to add some color to mine, but I think if I did that, it would all just disappear. It would just like disintegrate off my head.
No, it's the mohawk energy still there.
Yes. Right. We got to keep it. I think the mohawk, excuse me, the dot hawk, the mohawk, whatever you want to call it, maybe it brings a special je ne sais quoi into your artistic life, because you have this energy of fuck it. You know, it's just I'm going for it.
Yeah.
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 So people know you and I collaborated on some songs, and they're starting to come out as part of, you're gracious enough to let me put those on my new record that's coming out, my new studio record.
What? I'm honored. I'm so honored. I'm like, what? I can't believe that I'm working with you, because we're in the same, we're aligned, I would say, in terms of the messages we want to put out. So I'm honored. Thank you for having me on it.
Oh, thank you. So the first song, this is the first single. It's coming out. It's called Cosmic Dance, and it features you. And there's a couple other songs that are going to feature you as well. And the album is called Music for the Deck of the Titanic. And that's kind of a bold title, and I can talk more about that. But I think personally, it's good to. I want to get into you and your world, but I also want to talk a little bit about how this collaboration happened and what it was like. Because for me,
Mm.
it was unusual,
Yeah.
and it also was the first process of this album before I even knew it was an album. Like you and I, we met, I think, on Instagram or something, and
Mm.
I kind of kept it in my back pocket of like, well, sure, it'd be cool to. You're a great vocalist, and we'll just kind of find something sometime in the future.
Yeah.
And you were a bit more persistent about like, let's just get together
Yeah.
and do it. If I remember correctly, you basically just got a plane ticket and one day showed up in the middle of winter at my
Yes.
studio
I know.
door.
Yes. I
I
was
was
like,
like,
I'm coming.
I was like, this is a brilliant technique. Why don't I do this? Just like make an introduction with an artist and then just show up. And
Yeah.
I've never had the hood. You've got the chutzpah there to just do that. So good on you.
Yeah, because the time is always fleeting, and we always say that we're gonna do something, and then like it just goes, it just falls away. But I felt like this was at the beginning of the year. I felt like I had to be intentional about who I want to work with and why I want to work with them. And you were one of the first people that came up for me because of the space you're in and the things you talk about and how urgent it is. I feel like is so necessary. Like I felt a calling to work with you, and that's why I'm here.
Well, can you tell me more about how did that process happen for you? Like, how did you hear the music, or like because you have an incredible voice. I've described it as a cross between Adele and Amy Winehouse. It
Wow.
really has these. It does. It has these qualities of each, and you have a lot of power and has a very unique timbre. And your music that you tend to write, and you've been a lot of the collaborations you've done have a lot of energy, and a lot of different sounds. And so I'm just curious what I think what we ended up creating actually is very groovy.
Yeah.
But maybe in your mind, did you think it would be different, or like what? How did this happen for you?
No, I didn't have any expectations besides what the message would be and how we would leave people feeling. So we kind of worked backwards from there, right? So how I found out about you was because I'm very into the psychedelic space. I'm a huge psychedelics fan, and I think it's definitely going to help lead the way in, healing trauma and bringing us all together. But I was working with Trevor Hall,
Right.
and I heard the song that you and him did, or you did the remix of. My
I've
love
done a
is just
couple
a
remixes for him. Yeah,
reminder.
a
Yeah, so
reminder.
I heard
Yeah.
that, and I was like, I have to work with both of these people. And I did work with Trevor Hall. We had a song last year called Two Oceans, which I love. And then I was like, I have to work with East Forest too, because I heard your stuff with Ram Dass. And I was just like, wow, this is exactly what we need. The frequencies of it, like it put me in a good space. And it was like a dose of mushrooms too, kind of in some way. And that's what I want my music to be, kind of like a dose of psychedelics. I wanted to leave you in a good space. So that's why I had to work with you for sure.
Well, I'm glad you did. So I remember you showed up, and if I remember correctly, you said you didn't want me to plan anything in advance musically.
Yeah. Did I say that? I
What
don't remember anything
you
I was
did,
saying.
you did because, and I'm curious. Well, maybe you don't remember that, but I was going to ask you why you said that. And I think that's brilliant. I often say the same thing because you want to be open to. You don't know what wants to come forth. We hadn't even met, so
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, right? But it's also like there's that tendency to think like, well, we have limited time, let's get prepared. But I had
Yeah.
nothing when you walked
Yeah.
in.
I love that. Yeah. Because I feel like when I say at the beginning of last year, I was very intentional about who I wanted to work with, and what I wanted to do. One of the things was making sure that like my voice was heard the way it was intended to be heard. Because if you have a beat for me or something, then I have to work within the parameters of those sounds. But my the way I like to work, or like the things I like to do. I want to be more free flowing and allow it to have space and see where it's gonna go. And that's why I probably said that I don't want you to prepare anything, because I kind of wanted to feel your presence too, and like us work together and create something together, you know? And I feel
Yeah.
like that's always more powerful than someone creating something, then I create something, then, you know, bouncing back and
Yeah.
forth. Like, I feel like just the whole creation together in a bubble is way more powerful.
It's true. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you came in and I was just sort of sitting there thinking, I remember there was that moment where I'm like, oh, okay, let me start something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's usually a very private process where it's sort
Yeah.
of boring and takes a while. And I remember
Mm.
starting to just mess around with the beat with that sort of 808 big drop. And then I remember messing around with just like sort of a lick with a Wurlitzer. And that
Which was
became,
beautiful, by the way. The resonance in that room is like, ooh.
yeah, you're in the home studio.
Yeah,
And I just remember we kind of riffed from there. And
yeah.
one thing that was interesting is I put up a mic for you and you were sort of riffing, coming up with different ideas. And I might have been recording it. And I picked up another, actually, this mic, the same mic I'm on. And I was sort of whisper singing into it, more like to give you inspiration. Like I'd
Yeah.
sing a little vocal line and then maybe you'd respond.
Well, because I
And
was
then
very nervous too, and it
you
was
were
new for both
nervous.
of us. Yeah, because I
Yeah,
didn't.
I
I
was
mean, like, it's a
nervous.
new space for me. I mean, if you know, like my the other music that I do is like very structured. You know, like it's very. It's not pop, but it's like just and within a genre, kind of. You know, and I feel like within the music industry, I've been kind of like forced into that box because of what my voice sounds like. You know, they try to
Right.
make
You're a
me do
singer.
Adele
Yeah.
or Amy Winehouse songs mostly, but like I'm African. I come from different spaces, you know, and I wanted to do something different. And so I was nervous in terms of I was like, oh, what if he doesn't like what I'm doing, you know? So I think it was interesting for both of us because it was new for you too, and you said that during the session. You're like, this is
Yeah.
I've never done this before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what was wild about, because my first thought was like, you'd be the singer and I'd produce these tracks, we'd work on it. But I started singing these lines, and then I think you said, like, why aren't you singing more? Like, why don't you sing more? And I'm like, oh, because this or that, blah, blah, blah. And we ended up keeping my lines, and then it became a call and response. And actually, we did 4 songs. All the songs are basically a call and response, which to me, what I love about that, one, our voices are different, but I sound
Mhm.
like a lady, right? I'm singing in
No,
my
you don't.
falsetto. But point is, it's almost, it's got this sort of like masculine, feminine call and response, but also blends genders where you're like, well, is it masculine, feminine? But it feels like
Yeah.
two voices singing to each other. And
Mm,
thematically, that became really interesting for all the songs.
mm,
And in Cosmic Dance, it's to me kind of a poem about longing to, for me it was more like returning to God or source or all the things that hold us back, like, you know, this refrain of let me in is, but it also, someone could look at that and it could be more like about two people
mm,
and being blocked off, which maybe is the same thing.
yeah.
And so anyway, that was an example of how in the moment that process between us actually became a structural thing of all the songs.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
really happy that we did that because the whole call and response situation was, you know, very powerful because we both have something to say, and I felt like I was feeding off of your energy, you were feeding off of my energy, and like we were pushing each other to like really get out what we're trying to say. And yeah, I've never done that before, and I actually like the whole process, which I will be replicating.
Yeah, because that Cosmic Dance was the first one that we did. I think you were there a few days, and
I love that
it,
name, by the way. Thank you for
which
naming
was
it
the
that.
temporary name. It was like, you know, I always give it like a temp name just so I can, I don't know, that's just the first thing. And I changed it at one point to Cosmic Mother, but I was like, no, Cosmic Dance is sexier. It just, I don't know, it felt right for the title.
It is right.
It is a cosmic dance, right? But
Confirmed.
that informed everything else, and I remember just feeling like it's still one of my favorite tracks on the album. So we had that, and I basically took all your vocal phrases and just started playing with them, moving them around and
Mm.
making a structure. There was this one like line you did that kind of goes up and it's midway in a song. And that's why I feel like it really blooms. That's like where
Mm.
everything really like now we're really in the track. And so months passed and I was starting to create other songs that were more like, I guess, contemporary, classical, experimental with piano.
Mm.
And I'm just thinking like, I don't know what my next record's going to be. I've got that collaboration with Marieme and these other songs and these other, and it wasn't coming together as a piece. But I did think with your stuff that we were doing, oh, this would be cool maybe with drums, like acoustic drums. And I had this vision of it being like really well recorded, close mic'd, kind of dry drums, sort of like Stevie Wonder style, but a little bit of a jazz influence, but like has a little funk, but it's just like really well played.
So good.
And so fast forward to me meeting Jens Karas, who's been on the podcast.
Okay.
And I meet this guy and I tell you should listen to that podcast to hear the crazy story about how I met that guy. But he's like a professional
I feel like you have a
drummer.
lot of crazy stories.
Yeah, he lives 2 blocks away, of all things. 2 blocks. And I'm like, what are the odds? There aren't that many professional musicians in Boise, period. Like, let alone like this great drummer down the street. And I was like, can we record sometime? I'd love to pay you to come in. So we did a session and put drums on, and then everything like really opened up. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. And it actually led me to record a lot more drums for other songs on the record. And then I was like, we need upright bass because it needs bass. And then Owen Hoffman Smith. And then it's like, basically the record became this whole like keys, drums, bass, vocal thing, and that's the whole vibe of the record now.
Wow,
So that was the gateway drug is our experience.
that's amazing. I love how everything came together so organically too. You know, what's meant to be is meant to
Yeah.
be.
Well, it was not. It was definitely a learning process. That's why it took so long because I also was recording the drums and everything myself, and then I had to mix it myself. It was just like incredibly time consuming.
Yeah,
But I'm really glad I did it. I really, really like. I think the drums sound amazing.
it's so good. I cannot wait for people to hear it. It's so good. Yes.
He's a great player, and the drums themselves sound good, and we used great microphones, and it just sounds like real, like a
Yeah.
vibey, like laid back but groove.
Hmm.
So I love it.
For
And this will
sure.
come out most likely after the song just came out or something. So hopefully people, it's in the show notes, and people can go listen to the track and just share it
I
around.
can't wait for people to hear it. It's gonna be so good. Just because like I know when I listen to it, like the feelings that I get is like you know when you have the feeling that something just exists without like I don't feel like we created it. It's
Right,
just something that exists, you know?
right.
Like we caught the vibes from the universe and we put it out there.
Don't we always at its best? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's get a little background on you here. You're from Senegal,
Yes.
and how does one? You told me a bit about your background. It seemed
Yeah.
like fairly traditional
Yeah.
parents, and is that how you got to be such a creative person? Is that like a backlash against your upbringing, or tell me about
Yes.
coming here and becoming
Coming to
Marieme?
America.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I grew up in Senegal till I was 7 years old. But before that, I was born in Mauritania. My dad is Mauritanian and Senegalese. My mom is Senegalese. But at 6 months old, I had to be carried out of a war zone because Senegal and Mauritania were fighting. And so we lost everything in Mauritania. Like my dad lost his job as he studied for like 6 years before in Russia before he met my mom. And like he's a very educated man, like got a big executive job, in Mauritania. We lost everything. Okay. So
Wow.
we had to get on the last plane to go back to Senegal. So we were basically refugees. And then my dad came to America to get his master's at Georgetown and left me, my older sister, and I in Senegal. So I didn't see my parents for like 5 years while they were
Mm.
making a life for us here. which I just been reflecting on. It was very interesting. I mean, it was odd when I tell people this. It's odd. They're like, "Oh, you didn't see your parents for 5 years." I'm like, "Oh, for us, it wasn't a big deal, you know, like because they were somewhere. What we call it in our language is bitimreo, which is another world. They're in another world, making trying to make our lives better and stuff. So they brought us here at 7 years old, when I was 7 years old, to the Bronx, and the assimilation process was very crazy. It was just not. It
Mm-hmm.
was crazy. So like the first words that I learned were just not kind words. It was the things I was being teased about. So I had to like learn those words. So learning English was just it wasn't kind. That's all I have to say. I felt the brunt of just racism, colorism, everything like came down on me. You know, I didn't understand why I was being treated a certain way. Um,
Mm.
and then also like my parents are very religious, Muslim religion, and is not as a creative and somebody who was like just out there, and I never vibed with religion, and that was a problem within the household. And I wanted to be a singer. I was a creative person, you know. And when you come from Africa, I don't think art is really pushed. Like, is either you a lawyer, a doctor, or engineer. If you're not doing
That's
any
a
one
lot
of
of
those
lawyers,
things,
doctors, and engineers in Africa. Then
if you're
I
not
know
doing
what you
one of
mean.
those things, like if you're a child, who's brought to America and you're not pursuing one of those things, then you're pretty much useless in their eyes. And they're like,
Harsh.
we didn't put you through school for you to be a singer, blah blah blah. I'm like, but I have something to say and I'm good at it. And so I had to sneak and like join choirs and stuff. But I always say that pain gives you range, because it does. And the pain that I experienced through all of that growing up made me who I am. And I wouldn't trade it, just because the range is magnificent. But what I have to say is I wish those people who caused me pain didn't have to experience pain, because at the end of the day they were trying to get rid of their poison by teasing me, you know what I mean? So
Mm.
it's a full circle moment where I appreciate my upbringing, but because it made me who I am today. But I also wish that things were different, you
How
know.
long were you in the Bronx?
um until I was about like 17, and I went to school in Buffalo, New York. I would study journalism because I didn't think singing was an option. So I was like, okay, I have to be famous somehow. Let me study journalism. Be an on camera person.
Yeah, well, that I could imagine. 7 years old is a very like important time, and to have that kind of just moving alone
Yeah,
like that to new country, new language is pretty traumatic. Let alone
yeah,
having it be made harder by all the things you mentioned. I, I
yeah.
I can't imagine. I mean, that's a lot to overcome. Is that something that you still feel is resonating in your life? Or you talked about some of the psychedelic work you've done, or how have
Yeah.
you worked with that?
Well, all those experiences caused me not to love myself, and that's like the fundamental thing. And even when I read about, I was telling you that I read your double blind article, and you talk about how the only way the individual work is going to be the only thing that's going to save the world, and that's what I talk about all the time too. And I feel like self love and how I feel about myself is gonna radiate out, like, you know, like I'm the drop in the ocean. That's going to be that's
Well, it goes the other
whatever
way,
I
right?
feel about myself is what everybody will feel about me, kind of. And so I know that I had to do the work in order to get to a place where I love myself, get to a place of understanding, forgiveness, and just try to bring positivity out into the world.
I mean, we do our best, right? I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that we don't have difficult emotions and feelings. We all feel everything, but it's like it's it, whatever we're feeling creates reverberations in a sense, or whatever our stuff is. So it's just recognizing the role we play in the
Mm.
great unfolding.
Mm.
And but still, like that adversity you went through is real,
Yeah.
and that's something that is resonating in a sense, and it informs who you are.
Mm.
It does. Do you think that played, like, did that cause you to have some of the opinions or directions that you have now?
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure. It made me a more compassionate person just because I'm very aware of like the energy that I put out into the world. And I feel like a lot of people are not, you know, because they're just trying to get rid of their poison. Like, yeah. So I'm very intentional about like how I treat people, or like how the type of music, what my work, what messages I'm putting out, and the impact that is going to make. Because if I feel like if we were more intentional and really observed our behavior and how it's affecting people, then we would be different, you know?
Mm.
So yeah, all of it informed me and made me a better person, because I've been on the other side, and I've been the person also who like tries to get rid of my poison too, you know, unintentionally. And so I've been on both sides, and I've just I the place that I'm in now is a place of love, me as the source of love, and not a destination that I'm trying to get to.
Because it could have gone the other way. You know,
Yeah.
people spit hate at you and you end up just spitting it back, and it's hard to
Yeah.
get out of that cycle. Like, ultimately, you had to put that baton down in some way, but that's not always easy because you have to process those occurrences.
Yeah. It was very traumatic, but I'm happy that I wanted to heal, and the universe led me to places where I could heal. You know, going to Peru in the jungle, like I met people who led me there, but I also realized because my heart was in the right place, and like I was actively seeking out those type of things. Um, the universe provided, and the universe will always provide. That's why you have to be intentional about what you put out, because you're gonna get what you want.
So, yourself as a singer,
Yeah.
did you always know that you had a voice, or is that something you had to kind of rein in later in life, or is your family musical? I mean, where did that come from, or when did you notice as like this is a thing?
Funny thing is, my dad, now at first my parents were like totally against me singing, but now they're like, "Oh, she got it from me," or like,
Yeah,
you
right.
know. And I found out not too long ago that my dad used to be like a musical director in the and when he was studying in Russia. He was like, oh, you know, like I used to play violin, I used to do keys and
Oh,
stuff, but like now he's super religious. And so he's like,
those are mutually exclusive, or he doesn't?
well, apparently, because I
Oh,
mean, like, I mean, I heard a lot of things growing up that like I would go to hell if I sang and stuff. So like that,
wow.
I know, but like I think it was like scare tactics. It just did not
Yeah, I'd
work.
say so.
They were, and so I think they were trying to protect me, because whenever they bring up any musicians, they'll bring up like Whitney Houston, or like like people who like fell, you know,
Right.
from being an artist. So I mean, in hindsight, like I realized like it was my parents trying to protect me in their own way. It just didn't work. But I felt a lot of guilt growing up too. Like even when I first started singing, like I would choke up on stage just because I would hear my mom's voice like telling me I would go to hell
Ooh,
that if I sang. And
wow.
like so I would like drink a lot and like just get super fucked up before I even went on stage. And that was a
Wow.
disservice to me, because you think you sound good when you actually do not.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I always knew I could sing. I was always a creative person. Like I wanted to be an architect when I was younger. I wanted to be a fashion designer. I still make my own clothes sometimes too, which is cool. But I was always a creative, and like I always knew that I had a voice. And my sisters would tell me to. We would start our own little groups. You know, we would pretend that we were Destiny's Child. And how I knew that I knew that I was the singer, like that I had the good voice, was I'll be like, oh, I'm going to sleep now, you know? And then my sister would be like, oh, you think you're better than us, blah, blah, blah. You know, like I was just recalling this the other day when I was doing an interview, and I was just thinking about all these things. And So yeah, I knew that I had a voice when people would start telling me a little bit, but it was never something that I thought I could pursue. So I suppressed it, like it was my little secret
But when
until
did you feel you knew? Yeah.
yeah, I knew. And I went to college, and when I went to college, nobody knew that I sang either. But I would always tell people, "Oh, I'm going to be one of the biggest singers in the world one day." They're like, "What are you doing here in college with us? Like, why are you sitting in this
Mhm.
classroom with us?" I just knew. I don't know. Like, either I knew or I was just going to make it happen. But I always knew for some reason that I was going to be a singer. I'm like, this is what I'm going to be doing. I might be doing this now in this class, learning about journalism and stuff, but I'm going to be a singer one day. And funny thing is, like, on my last semester of college, I got this assignment from English class. Was it? No, history class, I think. And it's like a class of like 500 people or more, and we get do it. We all got like random assignments to delve deep into like a certain topic, and I got the Beatles album, Sergeant Pepper album. Out of
Mm.
all the things in history, like I could have covered like just like a Chinese dynasty, like
Could be worse.
anything out of
Yeah.
yeah. So I ended up getting the Beatles. And it was like, so I had to like write about them. And then when I studied abroad in London, I went to Liverpool and I did like the Beatles tour, and I saw their humble beginnings. And I was like, okay, so you don't have to, be big, because we see superstars and stuff at their height, and like we think we don't know the backstory of like their humble beginnings, or when they talk about it, we always think we don't really, you know, think that
Or
like
that like you write bad songs or you
yeah,
develop or you hear early stuff and you're like,
yeah,
oh, I can sort of hear where they went, but they didn't start where the
yeah,
realized form that we think of them. It's like,
yeah. So that was
yeah.
one thing that really changed my perspective on things. And then I came back after studying abroad in London on my last semester of college, and I moved to Italy a year after, and I started doing open mics and stuff. I just had to get away from the whole vibe of America, my parents, just feeling. Just the feelings I was feeling, and I just wanted to travel and just get away. So I moved to Italy. I lived in Florence for like a couple of months, like 8 months or so, and I would do open mics there, and people would be like, "Oh, you should be a singer. You should be doing this full time." And I think that's where I gained the confidence to really go for it. And then when I came, because
Mhm.
I remember the last day when I was in Florence, I used to work at this bar, at this really cool bar, and I was talking to this a woman who owned it. She had red hair. She was from like the Netherlands or something, and then I was crying at the bar, and I was like, "Oh, I have to go back to my parents. They expect me to wear a hijab or get married. They're not going to allow
Mm.
me to be a singer." And at this time, I'm like 21, 22, and they're like, "You're a grown ass woman. Go do what you want to do." And I'm like, "You know what? You're right. I'm gonna go
Yeah,
do that."
you wear the opposite of a hijab, and I love it. You know, it's you went the other direction.
And I'm like, wait. But they say that the higher the hair, the closer to God. So
Boom. Yeah, I mean, you've got a pretty substantial situation on social media too. Is that something that kind of just happened? Well, it probably didn't just happen. But tell me a bit about that and how you feel about it, because we've talked about this offline, and I know you have mixed feelings, and I'm curious
about
where you're
social
at with it
media,
all. Well, it's a big part of your platform.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
Um, I feel like because I have this hair and the way I look the way I do, people think I'm not shy, but I am kind of shy. And like, even I still deal with traumas of being told that I was ugly because I'm dark skinned and all these things. Like, people don't realize that, so that creeps in sometimes, and I don't want to make content, like, because the internet is not a very kind place sometimes, like people will try to get rid of their poison on you, like through the screen. But I mean, I try to take. I feel like I'm approaching it in a different way now, where I'm like, okay, I have things to say, and I have a platform to say it. I should just make the content that I feel like will elevate people, because I feel like I don't know. It's just a waste of a lot of. There's just so many videos. There's just so much things
Right.
that you
So
can
much
waste your time
stuff.
with. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, I don't want to contribute to that. And but at some point, I do have something to say, and like what I have to say might help people. So that's how I approach social media now. But I gained a little following in Brazil because during the pandemic, I was like, I have to take my career into my own hands because people don't know what to do with me in the music industry because I sing a certain way, but I look a certain way. And, like, you know, like I'm trying to create different paths. Like even I adopted the tagline, consciousness is the new rock and roll. And that's where I'm trying to go with it. And like the music industry is mostly about money. Like they want to make money, 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 money. So they don't care about a lot of things and or are not intentional about the
They
things that
also
they're putting
don't
out.
take a lot of risks, like especially in
Yeah.
the majors and stuff. You know, I don't know about you, but some offers I've had, um, you look at it and like there's zero risk here for them and
Right.
all risk for me.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's not much of that, like the past where they see something, they want to develop it. It's
Yeah.
more like, hey, you either have it going on, we're just going to take a big piece of that
Yeah. Yeah.
and we won't really promise anything, you know,
Yeah.
but we'll see if it really clicks.
Right.
And, it's very extractive in that way.
Yeah. And then they take all the credit for when something does happen that they had absolutely nothing to do with. So so in
So
2020 I was like,
how did you take yours into your own hand, as you said? Yeah.
well, I was just like, I I'm the type of person who does not like to be told what to do. And also I
Me
just felt
too.
like I didn't want to be one of those people who was gonna fall victim to the music industry when I have so much to give. And I feel like a lot of us are trained to believe that if you get a record label deal, you need a label deal to do something. You know, like there's a model of the music industry and a model of the world that we think is going to lead to success. But at the end of the day, what I realize is these people don't know what they're doing. They're just going along like everybody else.
Yeah. Well, there's also, I will say this. Um, I was referencing major labels.
Mm,
We're doing this album on Bright Antenna, which is the first time I've worked with an indie label like that with them, and I am excited to see where something, putting some more resources behind it, maybe that can help. Just like you
yeah,
said, there's so much content, and you have to try to just like get it
so much.
heard.
Yeah, there's
But
a rat
I
race.
agree. There's also not like a lot of this is magic. You
Yeah,
know, it's hard
yeah,
to say what clicks. It's timing, and it's not as simple as like, oh, you just dump resources into it and then it happens. So
mm,
that's also just the way it is.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so you have to take everything into your own hands and like create the things that you think is going to be useful to people. You know, because at the end of the day, we're here to make an impact and not just get by and create under pressure. You know, which I feel like that's what a lot of social media has been for me. And but in 2020, so I watched a bunch of marketing videos. I did an acoustic version of one of my songs, and I was like, okay, so what I learned from the marketing videos is like you have to be super targeted for Instagram promotions. So I was like, who's gonna appreciate this? And I was like, Brazil. So I started targeting Brazil.
Why Brazil?
Well, because they're very colorful, lively people, and they love guitar. You know, like they love like the acoustic sounds, like just like the cadence of that particular song. I thought Brazil would really dig it, so I was like just very super targeted with my Instagram promotion. So I put a little money behind the video, and it went viral over there, which was really
Huh.
cool, and it actually worked. um, and I mean, at some point when I did realize that people don't know what to do with me because I'm not like a typical I'm not the typical artist, I guess. Like I talk about stories of me going into the jungle or coming out this way, and they're like, oh, people don't want to know about that. Like they're not ready for it. Like stop talking about love, or self love. Like people are not ready for that. I'm like, but
They're
that's
not
what I
ready
need
for
to be
self
talking about.
love.
This is what I know. Like, I talked to my PR, and they're like, oh well, it's not really clicking because people are not ready for that. I'm like, but I'm gonna keep talking about it because this is what we need to talk about. you know.
Hmm.
So I do feel kind of misunderstood, but I feel like I'm finding my footing and with trying not to conform to what the label or the music industry is. And I know that I have to learn everything that that's within like the whole music industry journey, the typical music industry journey, so that I can deviate from it. So that's what I spend my time doing, learning a lot about it, and then just doing my own thing at the
Well,
end.
how's it going now? I mean, are you feel I think we've both talked about like being relatively independent
Mhm.
people doing all sorts of things. Like, are you feeling any overwhelm, or do you feel like you
No,
have
I've never been happier.
wonderful?
Yes. I got really lucky that I never signed with a big label. I mean, I've had like big label meetings and stuff. Even before I released any music, I got signed with Universal Publishing, which is good. So I got the publishing deal like 2 weeks after I moved to LA. Powerful manifestation there, because that does not happen anymore, which is cool. And I always worked with independent distributors, which is the better way to go, I think,
Mm.
in this day and age.
So what do you? I mean, like, what do you have going on now? What I haven't even asked you. Like, I know we have our record.
Yep.
This is coming out, but what else is on the
Which I'm
docket
so
for you?
excited for.
Yeah, what else are you excited about, or what's going on?
I'm excited about releasing my first album. Also, it's like a heartbreak album, and even within that, like I made sure that to get a female producer to work on it too, because the
Cool.
industry is lacking inequality in that way. So I have to be
Yeah.
intentional about that too. So it's going to be co-executive produced by a female producer and engineered by female engineers too and stuff,
Right on.
which I'm really excited about. And I've been working on it for like a couple of years now. And I started my live vocal DJ gigs, which have been going off on the dance floor. Because I'm singing live and I'm talking about love and like people are crying and dancing at the same time, which is what I like to do. I like to dance and cry at the same time. And you're like, oh my God, I'm going through stuff, but I'm going to love it. So I've been working on that. And then I'm going to be playing Robot Heart this year at Burning Man, if you're going to go.
Oh, cool.
Yes. So I'm really excited. I'm just excited that I'm doing the things that I want to do. Like even working with you, that's what I wanted to do. Be in the consciousness of people, help lift the spirits, and help get us to a better place as a humanity, and like help us get closer to the truth. Because there's a truth that we need to align with, and I feel like I also been doing a lot of work to work on myself, which is the most important thing that you can do, I think. Like, forget the rest of the world, work on yourself. So,
I would imagine so that you can be a better participant in the world.
yeah,
You don't want it to end there.
yeah,
Um,
for sure.
well, it seems like you've used the word manifest a few times, and it
Yeah,
seems like you feel successful at that. You think that, I
yeah.
mean, I think one ingredient of that is your mindset,
Mm,
and another, just judging from my own experience with you, an ingredient of that is action. Like you got a plane ticket and a hotel and showed up at my place. I mean, that's how it happened, really. I mean, or that was a large part of it. We could have gone back and forth for a long time.
where you're like, okay, slow down, just wait,
Showing up is a lot, right, in
wait to be
life.
invited. I'm like, these are my dates. I'm coming on this date, and you're like, okay,
I mean, worst case, it would have been like 3 days or something of nothing really happening, and that'd be a bummer and hard and frustrating. But it's like, well, look, you might as well take these risks, and I'm glad we did.
yeah,
But
you have to.
you never know with collaboration. It's always different too, like,
Mm.
and how you click with people, and you kind of just have to get into it to find out.
Mm. I'm glad you were open to the experience.
Totally, totally, yeah. And I mean, I want to always keep that open and do more. I mean, it sounds like we might do a few live things, and as I said, there's a few more tracks on the music for the Deck of the Titanic record that when the
Mm.
whole album comes out, that we hear more from you being
Yeah.
featured on it among some other people.
And I'm speaking in
But
my native language too, which is very powerful because I've never
Yeah.
done that with someone who's not Senegalese. You know what I mean? Like I've collaborated with
Mm.
Senegalese rappers and Senegalese artists. And so it's interesting when you told me, oh, like, why don't you speak in your native tongue? And that brought a lot of just different vibes to the table. And it was very powerful. So I'm excited for people to hear that.
I can't remember what you told me you're actually saying. I think you did, and I don't remember now because I've been trying to. That song's going to be probably on.
But you felt
Late,
it
we'll
though.
release it
You
later
felt
on.
like it was good stuff.
Well, like I sing in my own sort of made up language all the time, so I'm kind of like very comfortable listening to words I don't know because they just sound like music to me. I love it, but I was like, well, I guess these actually have. This could be translated to English. I don't know what you're saying. Do you remember? It was a while ago. Would I have to
Oh
play it
my
for you?
God. I can't believe you just admitted that. That's lovely. That's profound.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure you told me at the time. I just don't remember.
Yeah, I
Um,
was saying something about like opening your heart and coming back home
mm,
and knowing yourself. Xam naa sa bopp, xam nga sa bopp, you know, like
oh, okay.
knowing yourself. Yeah.
Da da
The
dee
language has a lot
atum,
of
something
wisdom in
atum
it.
or atum.
Hmm?
Family atum, or what's that phrase that you're
There's,
singing?
oh, xam nga
I'm
fi ngay
bastardizing.
dem.
Yes.
Xam nga
What's that?
yeah. You know where you're going.
You know where you're going.
Yeah, you know where
Okay.
you're going. And like, I'm not from Ojuge. I know where I'm from. So the
And that
language itself has a lot of wisdom in it too. Like
it's
I'm not the
Wale,
most
right?
proficient. Yeah, Wolof.
Wolof.
Yeah.
And
So
that's a
Senegalese people
dialect.
make fun of me because of the way I speak it because I have like an English undertone. Right. But the language has a lot of wisdom. Like it's a very wise language.
Very old culture. Great music in
Yeah.
Senegal. Great food too.
So good. You've
As
had
you have
Senegalese
told
food
me, but
before?
a little bit. But you
We
told
talked
me it's
about it.
fantastic, and I know about Senegalese music. I went to a music festival in Africa a long time ago in Morocco, and I heard a lot of African music, and I got all these like I went to the markets and got a bunch of CDs, and like Senegalese stuff is groovy. Like Mali, Senegal, some of the best, I think.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Baba Mal.
I probably got some of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where those CDs are now. Now we have
Yeah.
Spotify, obviously, but
Yeah.
it's
And the drums
it's.
too. The drum is because you
Mm-hmm.
know in a lot of African music, I mean like all the different villages have their own drum sounds and that's how they'll communicate, you know. And what I love is about the drums in general. I mean, you took a lot of time to perfect the drums in these records, and drums are very important because they're just the rhythm of your soul, kind of, you know.
Yeah. Well,
Tells a lot
Jens
about
Karras is drumming on this. It's really featured and it's across most of the record. And I really felt like it opened things up. And so maybe like, your own backbone and rhythm and drumming, like you're saying, you kind of brought that to the table just in what you like, your
it.
predilections with music. And I was sitting there being like, all right, let's mess around with some rhythm and drums and get some groove going. And
Yes.
I remember when at the end of the day, we had sort of some vocals recorded. We had the groove going, and I thought it sounded like Sade or something. Like it was like I remember it was groovy, man. That
Yeah.
was a good feeling. It was a good
Yeah.
moment where you're like, you've made something out of nothing.
It was fun. We were very nervous the first day because it was very new for both of us. And you're
Yeah.
like, wow, like I've
Well,
never
who knows?
done this
Yeah.
before. Yeah. And then by the second day, we like settled down a little bit. Then the third day, we like made two songs and
Yeah.
increased the production level. That was really fun. I hold those days near and dear. It was very cold. I'm not a cold person.
It was not the best time of year to come, but I mean, maybe it was because there's not much else to do. So
Yeah.
that process together actually informed when I went over to Ireland to collaborate with Peter Broderick. And I think it gave me a kind of confidence where we also walked into that process and said, let's not have any plan. And because that will help us. And it did.
It's magical.
And, that whole Burn album that came out of that same openness to whatever wants to emerge.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
working with you was very, very profound for me too. Like it opened up a lot of portals and a lot of just shifted my mindset on how things could work, how it can flow, and the different spaces to explore within the music realm. So thank you for trusting
Oh
me and
yeah.
opening your door when I showed up at your doorsteps.
Well, we were both trusting what could come out, and I think that's a big piece of it. And what I like writing songs kind of backwards in a way. Like maybe that's what you're saying, different than how you normally do it. Like we created sounds and then had that inform phrases, and and then I would edit and work with that to create a structure
Mm,
and add in things like the bass and the drums, and because it is a song, like there's a bit of a chorus there, it comes twice, but
mm,
at first we're just sort of playing around to see like what grooves and ideas want to come out, and I like that because we're working more with our unconscious than
yeah,
our mind.
I love that. That's the best way to work, because you should like one of my friends say, create space for the unknown.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
it's
I
key.
feel like that's very powerful, and we did that. We did the damn
That's when
thing.
creativity is at its best, is when something bigger is coming through than just what we can concoct with our heads.
What are you
Yeah.
excited for the future? I didn't ask you this.
Well, I'm so excited this record's coming out. I mean, I didn't, that was a long time ago when we did that, and it's always a bit frustrating to me is how long sometimes things take to get out, because this is one I've been sitting on for so long, and I
Mm,
think it's really good. And some people might think it's an evolution in my work. Certainly it's an evolution. I don't think it's that different. I just think it has a bit more song type energy, which
mm,
but I've always been interested in songwriting. And before my East Forest project, I did other bands that were very traditional, and I wrote lots and lots of songs that were like straight up songs. So
mm.
it's definitely in me, and I like that. And so I'm excited to have a really groovy album that's largely acoustic,
I love it.
and we're doing some live dates this summer that like we might be playing together in August, and I'm
We
nervous
will be
too,
doing it.
not to
I
play
will
with
be
you, but
there.
like yeah, we'll know soon if that's ticketed. Maybe it is by the time this comes out, but so I think what I'm most excited is sharing all these new sounds,
Mm.
just getting them out into the world, because they've been something that I've been holding close for a long time. I mean, what was that, like a year and a half ago? I don't even know.
Yeah,
I
it was
went,
right in the beginning of 2022.
yeah,
Yeah. Because
yeah.
I remember I was speaking to you when I was in Colombia in 2021, and I had really bad connection, remember? And I was like,
You were at like a
welcome to East
retreat. Yeah.
Forest. Yeah. And then everyone there was like, what? You're talking to East Forest? I play
Oh,
that
come
dude's
on.
music all the time in yoga. I was like, in the yoga classes. I'm like, what a small world.
Well, I
Yeah.
love that we're moving into this new phase of
Yeah.
sharing, and so thank you again for coming out and sharing your gifts and talents. Wishing you the most success,
Thank
and
you.
keep rocking the long live the Mohawk.
Long live the Mohawk. One day I'll change it just a little bit. Just a little bit. No, I think I'm gonna keep this for a long time. It's not heavy either. I mean, if anyone wants to know, these are the 3 questions that I get asked. How do I sleep? I sleep well. Does it take a long time to do? No, it does not. And is it heavy? It's not heavy at all.
Okay. Same for me. All right. You got it. All right. Good talking.
Thank you so
Chat
much.
soon.
I appreciate it.
Well, there it is. Thank you, Marieme. Always great to finally be able to feature you. I know we started this a long time ago, and I love all the collaborations I've been able to do. That one recently released with Anna, Let You In. Thank you for listening to that, and I'm excited to release these too. So this is the song that you're listening to behind me. It is called Cosmic Dance, featuring Marieme. The video is with Alaj Balde. Go check it out. It's on YouTube. There's probably links on Instagram, but you can go to my website or just go to YouTube and go to the East Forest music page. But this song comes out on May 24th, 2023, and more soon. Hope to see you out on the road, eastforest.org. Until then, y'all keep walking that walk. Don't take any shit, but if you do it with grace.